Hello students, welcome to ICT 8 4th quarter week 5 and 6 computer hardware servicing. I am Lara May Situtuan and I will be your teacher for today. Our topic for today is all about control, hazard, and risk. All workplace hazards, chemical, physical, and etc. can be controlled by a variety of methods. The goal of controlling hazard is to prevent workers from being exposed to occupational hazards. Some methods of hazard control are more efficient than others, but a combination of methods usually provides a safer workplace than relying on only one method. Some methods of control are cheaper than others but may not provide the most effective way to reduce exposures. The most effective method of controlling hazard is to control at the source by eliminating the hazard or by substituting hazardous agent or work process with a less dangerous one. Before thinking about what control measures are needed, first you need to know whether there are health and safety problems in your workplace, and if so, what they are. This is controlling hazard and risk. How can you identify health and safety problems? Here are some of the ways you can identify health and safety problems. First, observe your workplace. Second, investigate complaints from workers. Third, examine accidents and near-miss records. Fourth, examine sickness figures. Fifth, use simple surveys to ask your coworkers about their health and safety concerns. Sixth, use checklists to help you inspect your workplace. 7. To learn the results of inspections that are done by the employer, the union, or anyone else. And lastly, read reports or other information about your workplace. Once you recognize a hazard, then you can determine which measure will correct the problem most effectively. Generally, there are 5 major categories of controlling measures. So number 1, we have elimination. Number 2, substitution. Number 3, engineering controls. Number 4, administrative controls. And lastly, number 5, personal protective equipment or PPE. Now, this is the hierarchy of controls. Elimination, physically remove the hazard. Substitution, replace the hazard. Engineering controls, isolate people from the hazard. Administrative controls, change the way people work. And PPE, protect the worker with personal protective equipment. Number 1. Eliminating hazard means removing it completely. Number 2. Substitution is replacing one hazardous agent or work process with the least dangerous one. Number 3. Engineering control may mean changing a piece of machinery, for example, using proper machine guards, or a work process to reduce exposure to a hazard. Number 4. Working a limited number of hours in a hazardous area is an example of an administrative control, for example, job rotation. Number 5. Personal protective equipment or PPE includes air and eye protection, respirators, and protective clothing. Remember, it is always better to control the hazard as close to the source as possible. Using personal protection is the least acceptable and least effective of all control measures. Methods of control. Elimination. Elimination of a specific hazard or hazardous work process or preventing it from entering the workplace is the most effective method of control. Eliminate hazards at the development stage. It is important to consider the workers' health and safety when work processes are still in the planning stage. For example, when purchasing machines, safety should be the first concern, not cost. Machines should conform to national safety standards. They should be designed with the correct guard on them to eliminate the danger of a work getting caught in the machine while using it. Machines that are not produced with the proper guards on them may cost less to purchase but cost more in terms of accidents, loss of production, compensation, and etc. Unfortunately, many used machines that do not meet safety standards are exported to developing countries, causing workers to pay the price with accidents, hearing loss from noise, and etc. What are controls used? Controls are usually placed. Number 1, at the source, where the comes from. Number 2, along the path, where the hazard travels. And number 3 is at the worker. What is meant by elimination? Elimination is the process of removing the hazard from the workplace. It is the most effective way to control a risk because the hazard is no longer present. It is the preferred way to control a hazard and should be used whenever possible. What is substitution? Substitution occurs when a new chemical or substance is used instead of another chemical. It is sometimes grouped with elimination because, in effect, you are removing the first substance or hazard from the workplace. The goal, obviously, is to choose a new chemical that is less hazardous than the original. Education and training. Employee education and training on how to conduct their work safely helps to minimize the risk of exposure. It is a critical element of any complete workplace health and safety program. Training must cover not only how to do the job safely, but it must also ensure the workers understand the hazard of their job. It must also provide them with information on how to protect themselves and co-workers. Good housekeeping. Good housekeeping is essential to prevent the accumulation of hazardous or toxic materials. Examples are build-up of dust or contaminant on ledges or beams, or hazardous conditions like poor stockpiling. Emergency preparedness. Being prepared for emergencies means making sure that the necessary equipment and supplies are readily available and that employees know what to do when something unplanned happens, such as a release, spill, fire, or injury. These procedures should be written, and employees should have the opportunity to practice their emergency response skills regularly. What should I know about personal protective equipment or PPE as a hazard control method? Personal protective equipment or PPE includes items such as respirator, protective clothing such as gloves, face shields, eye protection, and footwear that serves to provide a barrier between the wearer and the chemical or material. It is the final item on the list for a very good reason. Personal protective equipment should never be the only method used to reduce exposure except under very specific circumstances because PPE may fail. Stop protecting the worker while little or no warning. For example, breakthrough can occur with gloves, clothing, and respirator cartridges. Why is it important to monitor and review your hazard control program and methods? It is important to monitor both the hazard and the control methods to make sure that the control is working effectively and that exposure to the hazard is reduced or eliminated. Some tools include physical inspection, testing, exposure assessment, observations, injury and illness tracking, employee feedback input, occupational health assessment, and other methods. Be sure to answer the following questions. Have the controls solved the problem? Is the risk posed by the original hazard contained? Have any new hazard been created? Are new hazards appropriately controlled? Are monitoring processes adequate? Have workers been adequately informed about the situation? Have orientation and training programs been modified to deal with the new situation? Are any other measures required? Has the effectiveness of hazard control been documented in your community minutes? What else can be done? A review will identify areas that may need more improvement or refinement. It is important to know if all workplace hazards are identified, assessed, and appropriately controlled. The workplace can be a dangerous place if various safety procedures are not properly considered. Some precautions which can be taken to reduce the risk of accidents are: first, ensure there are no trailing wires across or around the room which people could trip on. Second, power cables should be safely secured. Third, electrical sockets should not be overloaded. Fourth, electrical equipment should be safety tested at least once a year. Fifth, there should be adequate space around this for people to move. Sixth, bags and obstacles should be stored out of the way so that people can trip over them. 7. Food and drink should not be placed near a machine. 8. Heating and ventilation should be suitable for the working environment. 9. Work disks should be strong enough to support computers and equipment. 10. Staff should follow the safety regulations. 11. This is design's concern with designing safe and comfortable machines for use by people. 10. This includes furniture design and the design of peripherals that you need to use, such as mouse and keyboard. Helpful tips. Have a look at these top tips to ensure that you work safely and comfortably. Number 1. The right lighting can reduce eye strain, neck strain, and headaches. Sunlight is the best light, but make sure it doesn't create glare on your computer screen. Number 2. The proper disc will let you find the perfect working position. It should be deep enough to support your arms when you work at the computer. Number 3. Place your computer screen at eye level or just below. For optimal comfort, set it about 45 cm or 18 inches from your face. For set up straight in your chair, keep your feet flat on the floor and your knees slightly lower than your thighs. Number 5. Choose an office task chair that lets you tilt forward to reach objects in front of you and backward to stretch your arms when you're tired. Number 6. When you type, hold your fingers, wrist, and lower arms in a straight line from your keyboard. Number 7. Keep equipment that you use a lot, like your telephone and computer keyboard, within a distance of about 75 centimeters or 30 inches. When you are sitting at your desk, keep other storage and equipment farther away. This encourages you to change working positions during the day. Points to remember. Number 1. Occupational hazards can be controlled by a variety of methods. Number 2. The goal of controlling hazard is to prevent workers from being exposed to occupational hazards. Number 3. The most effective control measure is to control hazards at the source by eliminating the hazard or by substituting hazardous chemical, machine, work process, and etc. with a less dangerous one. Number 4. It is important to recognize hazard and health and safety problems in the workplace. Number 5. There are 5 general categories of control measures: elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and personal protective equipment. A combination of methods usually provides a safer and healthier workplace than relying on only one method. Number 6. Personal protective equipment should be the last choice in control measures. So remember the 3 steps of controlling a hazard. See it. Identify the hazards, or what is unsafe. Think it. Evaluate the hazard. What could happen? Do it. provide solutions to control or eliminate the hazard. Okay, so that's the end of our lesson today. So for your activities and tests, just visit our GAITF link, gaitf.seams.school/LCMS. Again, gaitf.seams.school/LCMS. Thank you for watching.